excited about a certain film that's out right now. That's right! Let's talk about Top Gun Maverick on an all-new episode of Get Real. What? Hello, my children. I'm Hot Toddy, and welcome to an all-new episode of Get Real. On this week's episode, we talk about the film that is pretty much breaking the box office bank right now. And you know what movie that is. It is the sequel, the long-awaited sequel to the 1986 film Top Gun. It's Top Gun Maverick. And oh, what a film it is. It's one of the best films of the year, without a doubt, and is extremely entertaining, and it did not disappoint. You know, it's a sequel. Sometimes sequels disappoint. This one did not. What can you say about it? I mean, it's a great film. It's not surprising that it's really breaking the box office right now. It's extremely entertaining, and it's a decent sequel to Top Gun. You know, I was worried, and I think a lot of Top Gun fans were worried when this movie was first announced that it was going to hang too much on the old cliches, hang too much on the past, and then not make it an interesting film. Here's what happened. They did all of that that I said they were going to do. They hung on all the cliches. They talked about way too much of what happened in the past, but it still made it a good film. Regardless of what they did, it was still really entertaining. And what's funny about Top Gun Maverick is this is one of those sequels that has, you know, been in development hell for years. You know, the first they said, we're not going to do a sequel to Top Gun. We will never do a sequel to Top Gun, ever. And they're like, okay, fine, we'll do a sequel, but it's going to be a while. And it's like, all right, we got one all worked out. It's ready to go. It's going to be released. Oh, here's a pandemic. Well, we can't release it right now, so we'll wait a couple more years. And that's exactly what happened. This movie was supposed to be out a little earlier than what it was supposed to. But, you know, no time lost. I mean, the film is still great. There's a lot of planes. There's a lot of plane stuff, a lot of aircraft, a lot of shooting, but you know, it's still great. It was great to see all the old people, and I do mean old people, come back for this film. Here's the thing, though. I want to talk a little bit about Tom Cruise, because a lot of people that I know cannot stand Tom Cruise. My mother hates Tom Cruise. A friend of mine said, when I told her, hey, I'm going to go see, or we just saw the new Top Gun movie, she was like, Tom Cruise. It's like, Tom Cruise is not a bad guy.
You're a jerk.
He's odd, but he's not a terrible man by any stretch of the imagination.
I see you do it again, you're gone.
Of course, watch him do something terrible, and then this video won't age well. But here, at this moment, June 2022, he's not a terrible guy. He's just a little odd. But one thing you can say about him, and this has been discussed in other movie review shows, is that this man does not typically pick bad movies to be in. He takes his time, he reads scripts, he understands what is going to happen, and he makes the right decisions. He makes calculated decisions about what movies he's going to be in. And he has very rarely ever struck out. I mean, some of the biggest actors in the world have struck out big time with some bad movies. But for the most part, Tom Cruise has not really struck out. There have been some that have. There was Night and Day with Cameron Diaz, which it was a decent enough action film, kind of like a buddy cop movie, but it was kind of nah to me. And then there was this monstrosity, no pun intended, that really sullied the name of the classic Universal horror monsters. I think even Tom Cruise would admit this was a bad decision.
No.
A very bad decision. Other than that, though, he has made some stellar choices for films, and they're always interesting, they're always entertaining. A lot of 9 times out of 10, they're always action schlocky films, but they're still fun to watch. There's never been a bad Mission Impossible film. Mission Impossible is probably the only franchise where it continuously gets better and better as the movies progress. And as a matter of fact, we saw the preview for the next Mission Impossible movie, which will be coming out soon. It's actually part 1 of a Mission Impossible film. So it leads me to believe that maybe this is the last one. I don't really have any evidence to confirm that, but they build it up in the preview as sort of like this is like the grand scale Mission Impossible movie, and it's part 1. So part 2 will be coming out later. So I wonder if maybe this is the end of that franchise. I don't know, but it looks fantastic, and that's the point of Mission Impossible, is that they get better and better. The Jack Reacher movies get better and better, and it's because Tom Cruise takes the time to understand the scripts, understand what's going on. He's highly intelligent when it comes to picking roles. So, I gotta give him a lot of credit for that. I mean, sure, again, they're blockbuster films, they're action schlocky, but the man takes the time to figure out what to do. Except, that one time we just talked about. Yeah. But anyway, for the most part, his movies are great. And Maverick, Top Gun Maverick, is one of those films. Other than Mission Impossible and Jack Reacher, he doesn't really do sequels. Like I said, Mission Impossible and Jack Reacher are like villain of the week type movies. But he makes them good. He makes them exciting and eventful and fun to watch.
You're a jerk.
So it's interesting that he would revisit a character like Maverick. Like, he would go back and do another movie starring Captain Mitchell, It's weird because it seems like a movie that would be one and done. And I think a lot of people probably felt that way. And maybe some were relieved back in the day when they found out, we're not going to do a sequel. But I'm glad they did a sequel, because it is a very compelling film. Tom Cruise comes back, and Val Kilmer, he comes back as Iceman, and so I want to apologize. Nobody knows this, but I'm going to go ahead and apologize ahead of time. I did not know that Val Kilmer had such a struggle with throat cancer. I had no idea about this. I didn't even know he had cancer. And I was a journalism major in college. I'm very disturbed at myself that I didn't know that, and I feel bad. But I just didn't keep up with Val Kilmer, so I didn't know he had throat cancer and he'd been battling it all these years. So I'm not going to give too many spoilers away here on this episode, but the Iceman does return, and spoiler alert, he has throat cancer and he can't speak. That was for real. He can't talk. Val Kilmer is not able to talk. They have done some amazing things with AI, though, where they were able to recreate his voice through AI, so that's how he communicates, and it's really amazing with what they've done.
We all have the capacity to be creative. We're all driven to share our deepest dreams and ideas with the world. When we think of the most talented creative people, they speak to us in a unique way. A phrase we often hear is having a creative voice.
But I feel so bad. I didn't know, Mr. Kilmer, I didn't know you had this horrible struggle, and I'm so sorry. But it made his performance in the film a little pitiful. It was sad to see him in the state he was in. But you can't do a Top Gun film without, Iceman. And that's kind of where you get into the more things about the film. It was very catchphrase heavy. If you heard one catchphrase from the original film, you heard it a million times. And then they brought in some new ones. And if you heard that one once, you heard it a million times. They literally did it, I think, like back to back in one scene. So it got a little catchphrase heavy. It got a little nostalgia heavy. Because, Tom Cruise's character, Maverick, Captain Mitchell, of course, he's still a captain. He's still in the Top Gun, esque programs of the Navy, and he has never been promoted, and basically everybody in the Navy hates him. Everyone in the Navy wants him gone. It's like, why are you still here? You're 1,000,000 years old. You could have been an admiral if you tried hard enough, but you didn't. You're still just a captain, and here you are, still, basically doing young man things when you're almost 60 years old. And it's kind of a pathetic kind of return to the character at first. It's like, Oh my God! It kind of reminds me of The Force Awakens. At the end of the Return of the Jedi, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, they're heroes. They saved the galaxy. The war is over, and it can go back to peace. And then you fast forward to The Force Awakens, and Luke started a school where all of his students got killed by another Dark Lord. And then Han Solo went back to smuggling because that's basically all he knew after his marriage to Princess Leia fell apart. So, you know, it was kind of like a super non-heroic return to this character, because it's the same thing in Maverick. He's just kind of there, still doing his thing. And then he returns to Top Gun to train all the newbies. And one of the newbies is played by Miles Teller, Rooster. He is the son of Goose from the first film. So there's a little bit of history there, and it's, you know, it's Rocky and all of that. So, you know, there's an emotional element to it. There's also the action element, a lot of action. There's, like I said, there's a lot of plane stuff. If you like a lot of aircraft fighting, there's a lot of that in this film. It kind of reminded me of a film called The Starfighters, which was riffed on Mystery Science Theater 3000. It was a film where a whole lot of nothing just happened. There was just a whole lot of training going on, and that's basically how the movie goes, only and through most of it. But obviously, it's a Top Gun movie, so it's pretty entertaining. But so there's a lot of training and stuff. But it's eventful, and it's exciting, and it's cool to see all of this going on, and they also bring up the fact that the Top Gun program is almost basically obsolete. You don't really need pilots, you know, anymore in these, you know, high stressful situations, because the movie revolves around this new threat. Because in the film there's this situation where their enemy, and it's never really specified who the enemy is, has built like a shelter for you know, dangerous weapons, and it's illegal, but they're keeping it secret, so they have to do this, you know, very intense, scary you know, dogfight, basically, entryway. And speaking of Star Wars, if you watch this movie, you're going to think Star Wars, because the trench that they have to go through to get to the main thing that they got to destroy, very Star Wars-esque. I kind of felt comparisons there between the two. But regardless, they have to do this very scary maneuver, and then they have to destroy the thing, get out before they get killed. It's the whole plot really revolves around that. And basically, like, if this were any other situation, they probably wouldn't need pilots. They could just send in like these drones to take care of it, but they specifically need the Top Gun pilots to do it, and Maverick has been chosen to teach them, which sounds like a really cool premise. But again, I'm not too many spoilers here, but spoiler ahead here. The majority of the film is him teaching these students who are supposed to be the best of the best, Rooster, Goose's kid, included in that, and then to only in the end, he leads the team. He wasn't even hired to lead the team. He was training these people so that there could be a team leader and a team, and they would go in and do this whole thing. And then it's like, okay, Maverick, you're gonna lead them. And I was like, I kind of got let down by that. I was like, really? You built this whole thing up only for him to do it? It wouldn't have been so bad. That's one of the few downfalls of this movie. It wouldn't have been so bad if, like, he came in to teach them, and then he did teach them, and then something happens and he has to step in. Or if he was going to be team leader all along and he was training all these students, and, you know, Rooster was one of them, and, you know, they were going to go together and he was going to be the leader all along. No, the way it worked out was, okay, you're going to train them, Maverick, but you're not going to lead them on this mission. And then he shows just how good he is, and they're like, okay, you're going to lead them on this mission. After he spent half the movie teaching them how to do this.
You're a jerk.
So that was kind of a bonkers concept. I wasn't really thrilled about that. So that's some of the downfalls, is the way the plot ended up being, and the fact that it was a little too catchphrase heavy, a little too nostalgia heavy. I get that it's a continuing story and you need that element, but, like, you know, create a new story. You know, I obviously you don't want to reinvent Maverick or reinvent Top Gun. I believe Tony Scott, the late great Tony Scott, I believe he said that too, along with Jerry Bruckheimer, that they didn't want to recreate it, you know, or revamp it or reboot it, or, you know, create a whole new story. But, you know, I don't know. It's hard to review movies like this because it ends up being the same beats. It was different enough to make it a really good film, but you end up, you know, hitting a lot of the same beats, and you have to hit that nostalgia factor, especially if it's a sequel that takes place, 30 some odd years after the original. If you do a sequel to a movie a few years after the first one comes out, there's going to be a lot of repetitive stuff, sure, but I mean, it's a follow-up. This is a soft reboot where it's a continuing story, but it's a lot like the first one, and it is what it is. But see, I love The Force Awakens. I didn't love the entire new trilogy of Star Wars films, but I loved The Force Awakens, and it was basically a soft reboot of A New Hope. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, this was a great film, I did love it, but there was a lot of things where I'm like, okay, that's a little too nostalgic, let's pull it back a little bit, and then, whatever. But all in all, though, it was a great film. Tom Cruise himself asked me about this. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, let's put that picture up. Tom Cruise and I go way back. He's a good friend of mine. He gave me a call a few years back and was like, listen, they're thinking about, revisiting this idea of doing a sequel to Top Gun. Should I do it? And I was like, well, Tom, here's the thing. Then I said go for it, and he did, and the rest, as they say, is history. But let's put that picture up again. Tom and I go way back. So there's a reason why he's in the film. There's a reason why he does what he does. It's because of my influence. So, I can't hate this film. I really can't.
You're a jerk.
But anyway, that's basically the point. So, all in all, I did really enjoy the film. I thought it was a lot of fun. A lot of plane stuff. A little too nostalgic and a little too catchphrase heavy, and I don't know. As I get older, I get kind of tired of the "I'm better than you" type of movie where it's like the characters are like, "I'm better than you." No, I'm better than you. And at the end of the movie, it's like, no, we're on equal playing field, and I respect you. Fist bump, high five, whatever. That's kind of an outdated type of thing too, but I mean, it's still. I know it sounds like I'm dogging on this film, and I'm trying not to, because I am giving it a positive review. Spoiler alert: I did love this movie, and I will recommend it. But it's just a lot of nostalgia. It's a lot of look back, and it makes it a little cheesy because of that. And I think my biggest complaint of the film is it went on too long. Listen, I'm all for your 2.5 hour long epics. But there's some films that really don't need it. And I feel like Top Gun Maverick was one of those films. You didn't really have to keep going and going because, okay, so again, I'm not going to give too much away, but they save the day. They do what they're supposed to do. And then, okay, there's danger. And then something terrible happens. Okay, and then they find a way to resolve the danger and resolve the problem. And then they move on. And then there's more danger. And then they resolve the problem. And then there's more danger. All within this 10-minute period. It was like the climax of the film just kept punching you in the face. There was too much climax. You know what I'm saying? There was too much climax. There was too much action at the end of the movie. A little too much going on. When you could have just stopped it at this one certain point. And I think you'll know what I'm talking about when you see the film. There's one point where you could be like, okay, that was a great ending. They should have ended it right there. But no, there's more problems and more problems and more problems. And it's like, just end already. You've made your point. The whole plot is tied up. It's done. And there's respect among the people that need respect among each other. So it's like, why do you keep going with it? Let's wrap it up, baby. We got things to do. There's another 2.5 hour epic coming up in a few days. It's called Jurassic World. So we have to be ready for that. I can't sit here watch Top Gun all day. But that's like nitpicky stuff. I mean, if you're really big on hardcore, exciting action type plots, this is the film. I mean, this is it. This is what's going on. And if you're really into super nostalgia, super catchphrase heavy, look backs to what was originally from a franchise, you're gonna get that with Top Gun Maverick. But all in all, the acting was great. I loved everybody in it. I'm not a huge Miles Teller fan, but even he drew me into his corner a little bit more from this film. And, like I said, great to see Jennifer Connelly and Val Kilmer. I didn't know he was so sick. But he was great, and the film overall really was Really was good. So I highly recommend Top Gun Maverick. If anything, it's a great summer blockbuster, and it's making all the money right now. It's a huge hit. So you'd be crazy not to see it, especially since it is summertime. Go out and enjoy yourself. Have fun with it. But, there's a little too much cliche going on with the film. And that's my only, way too much action towards the end. There should have been more action sprinkled throughout, but, or just take off some of the action at the end and just stretch it out to make it a little shorter and a little less, oh God, what's happening now type situations. But overall, the movie was great, and so I highly recommend it. And of course, don't forget, let's put up that picture again. It's because of me that Tom Cruise did this film. This was the day I told him that you need to do this film. So, so do it for me. Do it for Tom. Tom and I, who go way back, do it for us. And go see Top Gun Maverick, won't you?
You're a jerk.
Realize Homer Simpson has been in this shot the whole time? There he is, Homer Simpson. Who doesn't love The Simpsons, though? Come on. You know what? We've talked a lot about Top Gun. Let's wrap it up with my all-time favorite scene featuring Homer Simpson on The Simpsons. Enjoy.